Hi everyone, we're halfway there. Thank goodness, because I've been having a really difficult time this session. It hasn't necessarily been the classes, it's just been work has been really difficult with short staff, so I've been working a lot of hours, so it's been um, hard to come home and work on my classes, but I will persevere and I will make it through. And once again, this week I had difficulty choosing a person to describe because I find myself always seeking out just strong-willed people, or even maybe not that strong, but that they know who they are in their weak moments, and they just make it through some challenges. So this week I thought it'd be interesting to describe Sabina Spearline. The interesting thing about her was she was a patient of Jung's. She was admitted to a mental hospital in 1904 for hysteria. She was the driving force behind why Jung originally sought out Freud, because he actually used a lot of Freud's methods to treat Sabina. So, although she's a real life person, some of her character in the movie A Dangerous Method was built upon some facts about her, some truths, but some speculation. Um, the movie has some interesting encounters with Freud and Jung, which, if you have not seen this movie as a psychology student, I suggest that you see it, just even for the fact of the relationship between Freud and Jung. And if it's been a while since you've seen it, I suggest revisiting, especially since we're, reading all of these, the biographies of all of these individuals that came up with the theory and these theories. So the movie itself focuses a lot on the sexual relationship between Jung and Spearline. Sorry, Young. I always say that. Um, and I believe a lot of it had to do with how much Jung relayed in his letters back and forth, their correspondence. And in a personal note, they had found that he stated Sabina Spearline as being voluptuous and sensual. So, but no one knows for sure if they're, had really had a sexual relationship. But definitely it went probably a little bit beyond a level of patient client. He probably learned as much off of her as she did off of him. So, despite their, whether there was a sexual relationship or not, um, that doesn't take away from what I believe Sabina had in her character. She was a bold woman, especially during that time period. Especially a lot of the things that Freud and Jung spoke about, and what she herself was studying was definitely, with sexuality. It's probably not common for a woman to do that, and be so bold and expressive about it. She was highly intelligent, and I believe her insight is what propelled Jung to have her become his assistant so he could work closely with her. He also encouraged her to go to school, and she later becomes a doctor, and she becomes one of the first female psychoanalysts. And she introduces psychoanalysis to Russia. She gets married and has her own family, but she made even quite an impression on Freud, even despite maybe they had some differences. She was almost like in the middle of Jung and Freud, so probably caused a lot of their arguments. But then, so especially if there was a relationship, because I think Freud definitely would have thought that violated the client patient, what you would do. So, um, but what I mainly want to focus on is within her character. Um, what ties in this week's reading on existentialism is that you have somebody that's a patient, and then they become the doctor and start treating other people. So that builds upon um, existentialism, that we're more than just a state of being. We're not stagnant. We're capable of change. And we may sometimes need to seek out help. We have our past, we have our present, and we determine our future. And I think that's something that we all know, that we may have our own issues. Even though we study psychology, we may need to learn and grow with self-actualization and just self-reflection, a continuing of that. And then we have to believe that we are capable of helping others. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be going into this field. But there's definitely some on the part of the patient. They're not stuck where they are. They can choose to make certain changes. Although I think that they need to understand their past to be able to move forward. But Sabina, unfortunately, her life was ended prematurely with the Nazi occupation. She was killed by the Nazis. I'm going to look more into her because I think she was just a great contributor to the field of psychology. She wrote a lot in French and Russian, and they're still translating a lot of her works. But interesting character, interesting person, someone we can inspire to as students. So I wish you all well the rest of the week, and I'll hear from you in your discussion responses. As you will hear from me in mine. Have a good one.